Hello and welcome back to another episode of Henry Weston's Old Mate, the podcast. I'm joined by someone from Twitter. His name's Ben Knibb. We've exchanged a few DMs in the past, but I asked Ben if he'd like to come on and have a chat about all things Twitter and all things Ben, really. So before we get over and meet Ben, if you are watching us on YouTube, please obviously like this video and subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to us on a podcast provider such as Apple, Spotify, Amazon or Google, please follow the show, like the show, give us a 5-star review. And if you could share it about, we'd very much appreciate it. We do have a Buy Me a Coffee page set up, allowing people to make small financial donations if they so wish. Right, that's the boring stuff. Ben Knibb. People who follow me, I've done some work with Craig the landlord in the past, so people will probably be surprised to see us chatting, but this isn't going to be a profile piece as such, but we're going to get to know you. Firstly, how are you, sir? Secondly, thank you for joining us. And once you've told us how you are, if you could just introduce yourself as best or as worst as you can, mate.
So I'm Ben. I'm doing fine, actually. Thank you. Yeah, I'm on annual leave. Just got the 12 days off. Not going to do anything. I've overworked, to be honest. I need a break, so I'm just having a break. I'm just doing a whole lot of nothing, to be honest. So yeah, I'm Ben. I'm 38 this year, believe it or not. Yeah. I'm just sort of, I use Twitter for a laugh. I post some really stupid, cringy videos, which people seem to enjoy. So I just carry on doing it. And I enjoy it as well. It makes me laugh.
Is it? I'm not into music at all or musical instruments. Is it a ukulele you're famed for playing?
Well, I try to play it, yeah. But yeah, it's a ukulele.
So it's a ukulele. So you'd probably be best known for your ukulele and your love of Heineken. We'll get onto that a bit later. But I have noticed from, obviously, since I followed you, really, you do refer back to your sort of hometown over in Margate there, or you're not there now, are you? But I'm just down the road, sort of around the coast in Deal. So we sort of grew up on. I'm 42, so I was 1980. You'd have been 1984, I guess. But yeah. So we sort of grew up in Kent around the same time. Just share with us what was, because probably someone from Deal, I'd have probably taken the piss out of you being Planet of Thanet. What was growing up in Margate like in the 80s, mate?
Well, Margate, yeah, it's a very, yeah, people probably would have had a perception of it when, like, back in those days. Obviously, it's up and coming now. But yeah, it's a great place. I've got some great friends from there, and I always will have. And I have some wonderful memories back in Margate. You know, it was like quite a deprived area back in the time. We had a great fun.
Yeah,
we just, everyone in that town, it's good spirit. I left there because I wanted to. Basically, I wanted to earn some more money. If I'm honest, really, I wanted to see new sights. I wanted to come to the city. But Margate was a great place. Some very, interesting characters.
Well, I mean, Only Fools and Horses were down there many years ago, weren't they? And it was, probably maybe the 70s into the 80s. It would have been famed for the typical British holiday before we all started jumping on planes and getting 5 million pesetas to the pound, and we could go to Spain and live it up for 2 weeks for 25 quid. I mean, down here on the Kent coast was a place to visit, really. And I certainly had a wonderful sort of upbringing just around the corner. So you touched on the fact that you took yourself off, you moved to London. So how long ago was that, mate?
It's coming up for 5 years, I think, in July next month. So
okay.
Nearly 5.
Yeah, you just packed the old job in and headed to the bright lights of the city?
Yeah, well, I was with my then fiance at the time, and like that all sort of ended. We had a bit of misfortune, we sort of grew apart, and I just thought, I'm getting out of here. Because before I met her, my plan was to move to the city anyway, but then I met her and I stayed in Margate. Okay. So I was like, I'm getting out of here. So I came to London. It was horrible, to be honest, when I first came here, like, because of the situation I was in. And I was desperate to get out. So I got my job before I had anywhere to live. I didn't really have a pot to piss in, so I stayed in a lot of hostels and stuff like that. And then, just went from there, really. Like, I I just built up from there, got somewhere to live, and then just started to feel a bit human again.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, something like that, a partnership sort of breakup is a rough old time. Not much gets rougher than that, does it? And then moving somewhere, no friends as such, and certainly not having anywhere to sort of lay your head regularly for the first period must have been. But you're still there, so you stuck it out. And again, anyone from Twitter who follows you will know you've got the huge love for football and the Tottenham Hotspur. So was that sort of a bit of a driving force, or was that a fortunate coincidence, mate?
It was kind of fortunate that I got the place that I got that was so close. I was sort of in between the two, Arsenal and Tottenham, but now I'm in Hornsey, so I'm still, kind of in between the two, but I can get to the ground within 20 minutes, so it's perfect.
So you're a season ticket holder?
I didn't renew. I don't know why, to be honest. There were some factors. I started getting put work in Saturdays again, but that looks like it's phased out a bit. And I think I made a bit of a mistake because I think we're going to start doing well.
And is it? I mean, I know your rivals. A guy I chatted with a couple of weeks ago, Luke. He's an Arsenal season ticket holder, and he travels down from the Midlands. But is it similar at Spurs? He reckons, he doesn't want to give up his season ticket because he will then be on the end of a 20-year waiting list. Is it similar at Spurs?
It doesn't look to be at the minute. I'm still on my membership, and I know people that can get. I would predict that I'll still be going every week like I was. Yeah. So I'm still on membership, and I know people that can get me tickets. So I'll just be going the same. But I don't think so, because I read the other day that people like 70,000 from the list were getting offered season tickets. Oh, wow. And I'm on that Tottenham Hotspur membership, the plus one. So who knows? In a couple of seasons, I might get offered it back again, which I definitely take. I definitely regret giving it up now. But the group that I used to go with, a large chunk of them didn't renew either. Yeah. And that was the main part of me going, for the social things, to see my friends from back in Margate. They used to come up from Margate, and we all used to go together.
I mean, I don't want to go completely, well, we haven't got a topic, so I'm not going off topic, but I'm a sad, horrible Man United fan from down south who's only ever been to Old Trafford about 7 or 8 times, so I get plenty of grief for that. But I do a podcast with some other Man United fans, but I mean, Spurs this year, proper football side again, mate. Good Mr. Conte come in, and certainly looked like he maybe ruffled a few feathers, but he certainly got them playing again.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you think about it, we were making some good ground, and he only had the same players that Nuno had. Yeah. And then he put in the 2 additions, Kulusevski and the Bentancur, and they did really well, bulked up the team a bit, Kulusevski especially. And yeah, he's done wonders. We were nowhere near the Champions League when he took over, the mentality, the football, everything. And then he took it, just shows his class. Yeah. Really. And with the additions now, and he's got some backing, who knows what might happen.
Well, I mean, I've always liked Son as a player, and I'll just get your thoughts on Harry Kane, because I have a few Tottenham fans in an old school WhatsApp group, but Harry Kane, he is a world-class striker. I don't want to ask your personal feelings, but obviously he nearly left, and there was talk of City last year. Is the club, as the fans, fully embraced him back? Is he one of our own again?
Yeah, I think so. I would say he is to me anyway. I love Harry Kane. Yeah. I mean, I go to many parties. So I went to a party the other week, and apparently someone said, he sings a lot, doesn't he? And my friend said, yeah, he does. And they went, who's Harry Kane? But yeah, I love Kane. And I think, yeah, everyone's embraced him back. He had his moment. And then he come back, and he played really well. So the same as Rooney did the same at United.
I was just going to say, Rooney, whether he had his head turned or whether it was, I mean, sort of the theory is it was more of a sort of he was more disgruntled with Alex Ferguson in the direction of the club rather than the financial gain, wasn't he? But yeah, I think we know, as we're probably going to come on to talk about stuff on Twitter a bit later, you can't believe everything's written in the press, and the people writing the stories, they can't write the same thing. So every single journalist puts his own different spin on it, and before you know it, 48 hours later, Harry Kane never wanted to play for Spurs, never wanted to, wants to leave, but what can you do? I guess that's the modern age, isn't it?
Yeah, personally, I don't really read a lot of it. I wait till it comes on Sky Sports News. I don't really, because especially, I don't know what it's like with other clubs, but Tottenham, it's unbelievable. There's speculation down the feed, like a million different sources. Everyone's a club agent, scout, brothers, sisters, cousin used to go out with Harry Kane, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many in the nose, I think they call them.
Well, we're being linked with I think down at Man United, I think we're probably going to end up signing De Jong. We normally end up getting these players. It just takes us 7 or 8 weeks to get them. And then all of a sudden, Man City go and sign Phillips that nobody knows, the deal's going through. So they seem a bit better with their business. But anyway, well done to Spurs last year. And if my side could put together a change of form half as good as that, I'd be a bit happier next year and maybe do a positive podcast about Man United for once. I've mentioned Twitter a bit and the Timeline Skulls. A shout out to Timeline Skulls there. As an ex-drinker myself, retired drinker, do we say? I appreciate all the content. And we just said off air, you're a huge part of the community, Ben. And like you said yourself, you're not a huge, you'll do the occasional skull, but you're whether the right word is you've been embraced in the community or you've just made yourself a part of the community. I don't know what the way to put it is, but what does that mean to you? Because everyone, I won't mention all the names, there's too many names to mention, but everyone has formed such a positive community. And it seems like you've got a good bunch of guys and girls pulling each other along when you're down and sort of keeping each other up when everything's really good. How's it been for you? Because it's been going for a good few months now, these interactions. How have you found it? And have you found it a bit surprising, the community that's popped up?
I think it's great. Do you remember like Deal or No Deal? When they used to open the boxes and they all used to stand there, hold hands.
My younger brother was on Deal or No Deal, actually.
Oh, and they used to share the positivity, not that that meant...
Yeah, I know what you mean.
What's in the box? You can't magic what's in the box, but yeah, it's very good for lifting people's spirits. They all have each other's backs on there. Yeah, do you know what I mean? They're all very very kind to each other, and they're just having fun. You can't ever berate people for having fun. No. Like I say, I skull once every couple of months, but I get tagged in everything because I encourage it and I comment on a lot of it as well. And I'd like to think I'm part of that community. And yeah, I think it's just great fun, isn't it? They're just having a laugh and they're just helping each other along the way.
Isn't it? And it's it's gathered, it's snowballed to a point, hasn't it? And I recently enjoyed the sort of the themed sort of weekend, so to speak. I think there was the sort of banoffee pie beer or whatever it was that went off one week, and obviously Carpackie Fridays have been a bit of Carpackie Thursdays. Don't shout at me if I've got the day wrong. Anyway,
I've got to say I like Carpackie. Everyone's heaving on it, apart from the Goon Dino. He likes it as well. I think there's a couple of others, but I didn't mind it. Out of the skulls, like the themed ones, I think I didn't do the banana one because I couldn't find it, but out of the skull, I think that was the nicest one. I quite enjoyed the Carpackie.
Well, do you know, I was obviously, I'm a recovering alcoholic, so my drinking was in its day up there with some of the best or the worst, you might say. But at my university years, I actually went back to uni as a mature student at 28, and we lived in Walsall, and just around the corner, our sort of 8 till late boss man shop, if you will, they stocked K cider. And I before I was a bad drinker, I used to drink K cider because I actually quite liked it. I didn't mind the taste of it. And back in the day, I think it was over 8%, and it was like 80-90p a can. And you could get absolutely walloped on £4 and have the time of your life if you wanted to. And when I saw it pop up the other day and a few people describing it as rat's piss and not very enjoyable, I was almost offended as an ex-K cider man.
Well, in Margate, like that's known, like it's churchyard alky gear, like K cider, but so is the Carpackie and the Skull. Like all the ones that have been the big fiend drinks, they're all known as the worst ones. That's where I come from.
I mean, we talked about we'll get on to your sort of love of Heineken as you're having a sip there. For those not watching the YouTube,
Oh yeah, I have to on my holiday.
Ed's enjoying a cold Heineken. I'm enjoying a cold Diet Coke. But yeah, I lived in Holland for a couple of summers. I was fortunate enough to be there during the 2010 World Cup when they made that wonderful run to the final. But I used to drink, I think the beer was called Grimbergen or something, and it might have even been Belgian, not Dutch, but it was like 11.8% or something. It was pretty grim stuff. But I was there sort of trying to save money to go back to uni the following year. And for about 89 cents or whatever a can of beer was, it was fantastic stuff. And I could put the taste to the back of my mind. But yeah, that community, and you say, you're not sure if you're a huge part of that community. And have you? I know a few of the guys have sort of got together. Have you bumped into anyone offline, so to speak, or are you more of a just interact on the Twitter timeline, Ben?
Yeah, I've met a few people. Like, there's a group of us actually. It's like 5 of us. We sort of started talking in the lockdown, because that's when Craig was. I mean, he's still fantastic, but that was for me when he was at his best. Like he literally kept everyone going in the lockdown with his shed videos, and that he literally he lifted people's spirits, because we were all going through shit, weren't we? It was horrible being locked up and stuff, and he just literally put a smile on everyone's face. And I met a few people then. I'm hoping to meet Craig and the Bear one day, actually. We have said about a meet up at some point, and a few of the other guys. But yeah, there was 5 of us, and we're all 6 actually, and we're all still friends now. We meet up. I go to Birmingham. The guy's got a home bar.
Okay.
Yeah, we all meet up.
Yeah, I mean, I was lucky enough to. Sorry, mate. Go on.
Oh, I was just about to say, and Spurs, like when you go to Tottenham, it's like being a celebrity down there, like not in a big-headed way, because there's so many Spurs followers. There's quite a few that get it. Like you just walk into the ground, and I get like, hello, and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, I get spotted. All Spurs is unreal, especially in the Bricklayers pub. Like that is Twitter central.
Yeah,
everyone knows each other in there just from Twitter.
Yeah. I mean, it's. I mean, I was fairly early to Twitter. I remember we all joined up in the university library sometime. I think it was March 2009. But as an app, as somewhere to interact, I mean, I think it's a brilliant place. And I was lucky enough to discover sort of Craig's profile, not in lockdown, a bit later, but potentially a year ago or something. But what that gave me was probably a year of his content that I could sort of then back catalogue, so to speak, that I could look back through, and sort of in the evenings, if I wanted something to do, I'd just sort of scroll down his timeline, and there was an untold amount of content that I was able to sort of look through and laugh at. And that first one with him in the just in his paddling pool, absolutely leathered. But
that was quality.
Yeah. So I've got my notes in front of me, and it won't be a long discussion. And I know really the answer. You're famed for enjoying a Heineken. You're gonna, if I ask you why you like or why Heineken, you're going to tell me I like Heineken, and that's a good answer. But is there what are you that sort of person that you stick with what you like, or is Heineken just readily available where you live, or do you indulge in other lagers off Twitter and you tend to just push it, or are you just a steadfast follower of the Heineken, Ben?
I just like drinking Heineken, to be honest. I do like have other things, like I like a nice red wine. If I drink too much beer, I'll have a red bottle or two. So like I'll get involved in those theme days sometimes and have a carpaccio or something, but generally it's Heineken. I do like a cider as well in the summer. I like Henry Weston's, the 8.2s.
Well, that's what this podcast is named after. Obviously, Henry Weston Special Vintage, the 8.2 was my drink of choice.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that is this. Yeah. People often ask Henry Weston's old mate, where does that come from? And I'm like, well, I'm a retired drinker, and Henry Weston's was my tipple of choice. So I need to get a logo made up of me and a Henry Weston's bottle sitting on a park bench in a cartoony fashion. That's what I've always had in my head as a sort of picture for this podcast. We'll get there one day. You tried so you had the Heineken Silver, because I've seen the Heineken Silver flying around. There's a gentleman whose name I forget. He's been sort of pushing it on he's new to the sculling. I don't know. So Heineken cold filtered used to weigh in at about 3.5%, didn't it, back in the day? So is Heineken Silver, is that the new sort of cold filtered? Is it slightly less percentage? Is it?
It's 4, yeah. It's a percent lighter, but you can taste it. Like you can taste it. It is like my flatmate. He, for some godforsaken reason, drinks Carling. I'll never know why. But when I've been completely out of Heineken, I'm like, what am I going to do? So I've had a Carling or two. He said to me the other day, actually, he was like, did you take a couple of my Carlings? And I was like, yeah, I always like to take a soft drink to bed with me.
Do you know what? And I might be exaggerating here, but even when my drinking was off the scale, full blown alcoholism, I'd like to think, and please, again, don't shout at me if I'd have run out of cider and vodka and all that was in my fridge was Foster's or a Carling, I'd have drunk a glass of milk. I
don't know why I did it, to be honest. I was
nothing against Carling drinkers or Foster. Well, maybe I have got something against Foster's drinkers. It used to be a thing. I visited Australia years ago as a youngster, thought I'd go traveling the world and find my inner me. Lasted 5 months and ran out of money, sadly. But as is always the way, I touched down in Australia and made a joke about Foster's and was informed that no one in the country drinks it. We just send that shit over your way.
Yeah.
But, let's move on then, because we've mentioned the community, sort of the Timeline Skulls and Craig the Landlord and Bear and everyone. There's too many people to name. Ordinary and all the my name is Robbo, all the famous faces, if you will, and all the positivity that's come out of that. But you've been very honest, and I do a few mental health podcasts. Obviously, addiction recovery kind of goes hand in hand with mental health, and you've been very honest about sharing not necessarily your struggles, but you push for people being nice and not necessarily being arseholes on Twitter, because there is no need. And you lost a good friend of yours, I believe it was in May, was it, sometime, and you're very open and honest that is a bad month for you. Are you happy sort of being able to sort of share with us your thoughts on why we need to be a bit kinder online, because there is no need for all this trolling bullshit, is there?
No. Well, as I say, I've had people like in tears to me because of stuff that they've been exposed to on Twitter. Like I've been said to them on their timelines and stuff. And people say, they're like, oh yeah, just rise above it, block and move on. It's never nice to be personally insulted, whether you block someone and move on or not. Like people have feelings. Some people are more sensitive than others. And it's just not a good trait to be a complete arsehole. It's not good to be like that. But I always say to people, because I did open, like I said, my DMs are open the other day, and I have had some messages. I'm obviously not going to say who from, and I just say, look, at the end of the day, they've got to wake up tomorrow and still be them. And that's something you can be very fucking lucky for. Do you know what I mean? But as I say, people say rise above it, block, but you will get affected by people just for no reason. Just some people might not. Some people might have thicker skin than me, but I just think don't be a twat. Yeah,
and it's like you say, the argument from people is block or ignore, or just don't rise to the bait. But as humans, we're pre-programmed to defend ourselves and to a greater extent defend others, really, aren't we? But there is, like yourself, a guy who just wants to spread positive, happy vibes with his ukulele and his catchphrase, if you will, and his drink of Heineken, and if he's had enough Heineken, a red wine, and then for someone to actively enter your DMs or your timeline just to insult you, to potentially make themselves feel better, or I don't really know why some of these people do it, but there really is no need. And I remember a post of yours, you did sort of explain it's all very well blocking, but you know, we need to be better as people, don't we? And I'm not going to change Twitter. This podcast isn't going to change Twitter. People say stop rabbiting on, Stuart, but if we could all try and be nicer to each other, if you know, people who I've seen some, you know, sculling beer doesn't make you hard. I don't think you guys, the guys out there sculling beers, it's not about the sculling beers, is it? It's about the community and the positivity.
Yeah. It's not like look at me. It's just everyone's just having fun.
Yeah.
Oh, hello, what do you want? Hello.
Hello, animal. So before we finish off, Ben, you ran a little podcast of your own.
I did. What a hit, son.
And sorry, I've just had a message. I'm just going to reply. So talk us through it, Ben. So when did it start? Sorry, I'm back. When did it start? It was a football-based podcast. When did it start? How long did it run for? And talk us through it.
So basically, I've always wanted to do something like that. I'm like that because I got an A level in like media studies and film studies and stuff. So I've always wanted to be a part of stuff like that. So I ended up doing a retro football podcast. I was very fortunate. I mean, I got Chris Kirkland and Carlton Palmer on, and then I got a few mates as well that came on that were very kind enough to come on. But it's like I struggled because I got very nervous.
Right.
Like you're very good at the ad hoc questions. I'm not too good at that. I kind of freeze a little bit. I can rabble all day if someone's asking me questions, but when it comes to presenting, I freeze a little bit. And some of these footballers, like again mentioning no names, they want a ridiculous amount of money. I remember one who's like, it would have been good for the podcast, but like he's not Cristiano Ronaldo, and he wanted like £400 for 30 minutes. I mean, like it's crazy, to be honest. So it's hard to get people on.
Yeah.
And also I'm very nervous. So I kind of just called it a day, to be honest.
So how many episodes did you put out, Ben?
4 or 5.
Okay. And is it still available? Because if it's available, I'll go back and have a listen.
Yeah, it's What a Hit, son. It's on YouTube still. Yeah, I kept it up.
Okay.
I would say the one with Carlton Palmer, I got applauded for that being quite good, actually. And I really enjoyed that. And he was Kirkland was quality as well, but he was brilliant, Carlton Palmer. He was a very nice guy. I remember I was working because at the time he was living somewhere in a different time zone, and was he coaching out in the Middle East? Yeah, somewhere. I think you're right, but I remember I got the timing wrong, and he sent me a message when I was at work saying, "Where are you? Are we starting?" And I was like, this is a bit surreal, getting a message off Carlton Palmer asking where I am when I'm at work. And we ended up doing it the next day. But yeah, he was brilliant. He actually supported the podcast afterwards as well. And we had a couple of chats after that. Yeah, he's a really nice guy, and he talks a lot of sense as well.
It's yeah, I mean, I have emailed, obviously on the addiction recovery side of things, I have sent emails to prominent ex-footballers, you know, a couple of them, without mentioning any names, a couple of them used to play for your arch rivals, Arsenal and England. And I didn't expect a reply, didn't get one, but it's, if I'd set my sights on sort of those, I think I'd have stopped by now, because I don't seem to get responses from any agents. So I've sent plenty of emails to high profile, not necessarily sportsmen, but high profile people in the public eye who have been very open and public about their sort of battles with either addiction or anxiety and depression. And I haven't heard anything back. And obviously they don't owe me a response at all. But I've moved this sort of podcast, certainly something like this, a good fun piece, and this will be fun on Twitter for the community that you're a big part of, and hopefully a few other people will pick up on this. But my addiction recovery ones, I decided it was better to sort of aim at those more personal stories. And if it only gets 20 or 30 listens on my sort of podcast, hopefully if one or two of those people sort of pick up or take a positive or reach out, then we've done our job. But that was wonderful, and I'm certainly going to go back and listen to that Carlton Palmer one. And I have actually DM'd Chris Kirkland because of he's had his sort of battles as well. But Ben, it's been an absolute pleasure talking with you. I've really enjoyed it. Is there anything you wanna say before we finish up? I think we're about covered all my notes.
I think I'm all good. Apart from there might be some people wondering if they're watching this. I'm getting a few people asking about the charity event, because I said there's going to be a charity event, very vainly called Knibb-fest. It's not because it's vain, it's because it's funny. But we're in, me and my good mate, we're in the middle of arranging like a charity event for. He's going to go for like a diet. We're going to do a charity each. I think a diabetes charity that's close to his heart, and I'm going to go for a mental health charity, Mind. We're sorting out the finer details. We're trying to get the venue. I've got a few people that are interested in performing. Yeah. It's just it'll be like a daytime thing. There'll be lots of activities on raising money, and all the money will go to the charities.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so that is pending, because I've had a few people ask me about that, and that is on the way of being sorted. No fixed date yet, but we are working on it.
Well, I tell you what, if I can help in any way, I don't have much of a following on Twitter, but if you guys, once it's all confirmed, if the pair of you want to come on and we can put together a 4 or 5 minute little promo video or podcast just to let everyone know what's going on, we'd be happy to have you on again, mate.
Lovely, thank you very much.
All right, well, all that leaves me to say is, Benjamin Knibb, thank you so much for being a wonderful guest on Henry Weston's Old Mate, the podcast. And guys listening and watching, don't forget to follow the channel. And if you can give us a little review, that'll be even better. This has been another episode of Henry Weston's Old Mate, the podcast with Ben Knibb. Thanks so much for coming on, Ben.
No problem. Pleasure. Thanks for having me.